All right, good morning. Quick sound check. Morning, David, can you guys give me a quick thumbs up? You got me on audio good? Jim, perfect, good deal. Let me get this off. Got people raising their hand already. I love it. Maybe by mistake, so let me get out of here. Got 52 people on so far, so that's good. We've got people rolling through. Mara, you want to check on those raised hands to see if there's anything we need on there?
Sure.
And then it's going to go through. We'll go ahead and get started. I have 34, so that is good. And we also have somebody in Q&A, just make sure they're not having audio problems or, oh, April just says she loves the quotes. Good, I love that. Those quotes have been around a while. I created those years ago and those are timeless, so that's always good. Where's the other quote I was gonna pull up now that let's see if I have it here readily available. I can't find it. It was good. It's a Vince Lombardi quote. And Vince Lombardi says, early is on time is late, and late is fired. So we'll go ahead and get started and reward those of you who are on time. So which is good. So good morning. Welcome to our May 2021 Future Home Realty office meeting. Again, we've been having great participation in these, so we have elected to stick with the webinar format. It seems to have gone well, and for the time being, at least. I'm working on seeing if we can, because I know how agents crave, not all agents, but most agents crave getting together and seeing people and so on and so forth, those who feel like they are safe enough to go do so. We did have a great time, by the way, those of you who are online that are cappers from 2020. We had a great cappers lunch on April 15th. Great time celebrating our cappers over at Maggiano's in Tampa. It was a great time to get to see everybody. So I'm going to work with our vendors. Speaking of our vendors, we'll bring them up in a minute, but work with our vendors to see if somebody will, about once a quarter, maybe sponsor some type of get together, a chance to just kind of, for those who want to come hang out and see each other. But in the short term, as far as delivering information, this has become a very effective way to get a lot of, get our message out and answer some questions that are pertinent and important as we go. Cool thing is you can do it from your home, you can do it from your car, you can do it from standing in the grocery line right now, which some of you might be doing with your earpiece in. So all of that's good, and we can deliver that information effectively. Our vendors, we're going to go ahead and ask you if you have come to our office meetings in the past and kind of want to give your 1-minute spiel of what you've got going on. If you want to go ahead in the Q&A and put your name there, Mara will monitor that. And then here in about 2 or 3 minutes, we'll bring you up one at a time if anybody's in there and wants to share with the group as what we've got, what you've got going on and how you can support. So go ahead and put your names in there. That'd be great. And we'll promote you to a panelist so you can go ahead and speak. As a reminder, you are, if you're an attendee, your face is not being shown, so don't worry about that. And you're automatically muted. So we've disabled the ability, because if not, when we get up to 80 or 90 people, sometimes we fill up the whole, well, it would fill up the whole screen. So we're going with this format. If you do have questions along the way, the vendors are putting their names in the Q&A, but if you have questions about what anybody talks about or something that you would like to glean more information on, please put your question in the Q&A, and we will either answer it as we go or jump on it and answer it in the webinar. So anyway, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and while we're waiting for the vendors to line up real quickly, Maureen, I think you had some housekeeping items you wanted to discuss, and I have that checklist ready to pull up when you're ready. So.
Yeah, I wanted to defer to you to go over our, we have a lot of issues with FSBOs recently. Most of the time we represent the buyer, one of our agents bringing a buyer to a for sale by owner transaction. And we do have a checklist available for that, but there are some situations that are unique where you might have a neighbor or friend that already has somebody who wants to buy their home and they want to be represented, the seller, or something completely unique, totally different. So it kind of creates a lot of questions as to what do we require on for sale by owners or transactions where we might be representing the seller or both parties outside of the MLS.
Perfect. All right. And so I have brought up the checklist. Now this checklist is, as we speak, being loaded, correct, Jim, into Form Simplicity? right? It will be there. So as of right now, it's not. If you see this, it's a checklist for sale by owner, FSBO sales contract. That is in paperless pipeline under the resources. It's already there under with our other, that's where I pulled this one up. So you can always grab it there. In essence, for sale by owner has a commission agreement, right? We've got to have some type of commission agreement that allows you to get paid, right? So, or at least we hope so, because that's what protects you in getting paid. So what you'd want to do is, because there is no listing agreement, that generally listing agreement and then placed in the MLS would be your protection on a standard typical transaction. Now we're diverting from that because it's not in the MLS. So we want to make sure you have a commission agreement. And then once you have that, and by the way, can you put the commission amount in the contract as you write it up? Yes, you can, right? But the danger there is, I'm going to encourage you. That's why I don't think, do we have that required, a commission agreement in here as a required doc, Jim?
No, I mean, typically the way I talk about it is get the commission agreement when you see a for sale by owner, saying, you go up to them and you say, hey, look, I have buyers that search in this area. Can I get a commission agreement? That way, if I bring you a contract and you're willing to, we've already negotiated that, we don't have to worry about it. And then, but the ones that we were seeing mostly are, hey, there's a for sale by owner and they've already got the buyer. And then they call our agent and say, hey, can you write up the contract? Because we don't know what to do. And that, it's like, okay, well, I'll do it if you pay a commission. And then they typically put it on the contract instead,
Right.
just to skip that form, which, like you said, there's no obligation at that point because we're not party to the contract. However, if they feel comfortable with that, I tell them currently I've been telling everyone that's fine. Just do that if you feel.
And I would agree that it's fine. I just think that you don't have as much protection, right. In because quite frankly, let's say you wrote up the whole contract, right? And then you put it in paragraph 20, the additional terms or additional comments, right? Seller agrees that to pay Jim Shands and Future Home Realty a commission equal to 3% of the purchase price, yada, 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 right? So you write that in there, all well and good, but then now you've created the whole contract package for them. And then both buyer and seller, all they do is change two things. They change the price, and then they will line out your commission and sign it. And now you've done all the work, and now you've created a contract for them. And now they've kind of just wrote you out of the commission, and you have no protection. Whereas if you had a commission agreement in place, then that is, some people back in my day, all right, we used to call it a one-time listing agreement, right? It was like a commission agreement is just say, hey, look, this is a one-timer. If I sell it to these buyers, will you pay me a commission? Boom, here it is. And that's kind of what a commission agreement does. So all that being said, we generally promote that you would, we'll need, if it's contract, we'll need all our normal required contract documents, right? That we would normally require for a contract. We do not need a listing agreement or a listing package or any of that. There are some things that are in the listing package, though, that are still required, like the seller's property disclosure and so on and so forth, to be signed by both parties. And then we promote, ideally, I like you to represent one party, all right, as a single agent, for instance, or a transaction broker, I guess, but then not represent or have the other side sign a no brokerage relationship. That's why you'll see points 7 and 8 here in the agreement. We have a brokerage relationship signed by the buyer and then a no brokerage relationship signed by the seller, because this is typically how we go about where we represent the buyer and not the seller, right? But we want to make sure, especially, and by the way, this is usually the case because you're usually getting a smaller commission than what would be a fully represented listing, right? I mean, it's like we're not allowed to talk about what is standardized commissions. I get that, all right, but if you're working for an amount that you think, hey, look, this is really what I get when I represent one side only, then we want to have no brokerage, and that way you can have the seller, for instance, if they're not being represented, hey, look, I don't represent you. I can't give you advice on this contract. If you want advice, you need to take it to your attorney or your cousin, Vinny, who's the realtor or whatever, right? To go get advice from them, but I do not represent you. So that's all there. But if you see, there's still quite a few documents that are required, right? Because we are representing a contract. So the difference is that we don't need the listing agreement from the seller's side, and even if we represented both parties, we don't need a listing agreement as well. But that checklist is there. Maureen, anything you want to add to that, or?
Just, did you want to address anything regarding if you represent the seller, putting your name on the contract as a listing agent? There was some discussion with Jim and I about whether that's correct or not and what that might imply.
Yeah. You're talking about in the two parts at the bottom of at the end of the contract where it says,
right.
Here's the listing agent, here's the selling agent.
Right.
I would go with just the selling agent would be preferred, because you're not listing the property, right? You're just selling as part of a contract. So I would avoid having your name in both, right? And quite frankly, even if you had nothing there, but just had your commission agreement in place and or the verbiage in paragraph 20, that's good. But to your point, to avoid the confusion of there being a listing agent when there is no technical listing, even though it's, then I would avoid putting your name as the listing agent. Because by the way, what would trigger us if this ever went into the MLS, right? For anything other than statistical purposes, but if this is in the MLS, then we're going to require a listing contract or listing agreement, listing package, everything else. So that's there. Jim, go ahead.
I was just gonna add to that what I've been telling everybody, and not everybody obviously online has heard me because they haven't dealt with this yet. But what I've been telling everybody is, if say you got a friend who has a property that you're going to be listing it, but all of a sudden there's a buyer, or they say, hey, I got a buyer, and can you just do the deal for me? However, the buyer has an agent. Then I tell everyone, just put a listing packet together, even though just do a waiver of MLS at that point if you want to, or throw it in the MLS and mark it pending right away. But that way, both roles are defined, that you're the listing agent, they're the buyer's agent, whatever, selling agent. And it's a lot easier that way to keep tabs on it. It's only when there's no buyer's agent and it's more of a, let's put it together, like what Maureen was just saying, let's just have you do the whole deal. Then that's where I would agree with Bob. I've been telling everyone, just put yourself as the selling agent or leave it off, one or the other, but not the listing agent.
Okay.
Correct. And that's a good point, Jim. And that would be in the instance when the buyer is represented by someone else. Then at that point, let's just go ahead and define all parties and all roles and go ahead and put it in the MLS, get a listing package, and in, like Jim said, either do a waiver or just put it in and append it immediately as soon as it comes in. So good points. So,
one last thing, and I know I've probably said this before, but I'm going to say it again because it comes up so much, and it's nonstop right now. You must mark your listings variable commission if you're willing to take less than what is the total amount if you get the deal. I've run in this a lot, so I'm not picking on any individual because it's actually happened a lot. But you cannot, if the seller says, hey, if I'll take the one that's unrepresented, if you lower your commission, you can't do it unless you marked it in the MLS as variable commission, because the other side has to know that that's out there, even though it's kind of assumed anyway. But you need to mark it. Otherwise, if they find out later that you lowered the commission, there'd be an investigation and get in hot water. So do not lower your commission unless you put it in your listing agreement that, hey, if I get both sides, I'll lower my commission by X amount. And then you mark it in the MLS as variable commission, because then you've got all the paperwork, you're all covered, you're protected. Otherwise, take the whole commission if you get both sides, and that's that.
And I would agree with that. But you guys know we're talking about variable commission. Here's an example, right? You list a home for 6%, but you have an agreement with the seller that if you bring the buyer yourself, you'll do it for 4.5% or something like that. And that is a variable commission. right? That means that the commission amount that the seller will pay varies, okay? There's thus a variable commission, varies depending on if there is a buyer agent involved or if the buyer's represented by another party and so on and so forth. And to Jim's point, where it's coming into issues right now is when you got 42 offers on the table, right? And 3 of them are yours. And all of a sudden the other 39 find out that one of your 3 got accepted. They want to know, well, how's that? Mine was higher, and they get all in a wad, if you will, and are, you know, claiming that, well, you didn't mark variable commission, so I didn't know that there was an advantage to someone being represented by you. Or more importantly, the buyer would have said, hey, look, I would have tossed my buyer's agent and come right to you directly if I didn't know that would have helped me, because it wasn't marked as variable commission. So if you have that agreement in place, and just mark it all the time, and even if you don't do it, you know, it doesn't mean you have to vary, right? If that's what your agreement is with the seller, but just make it standard practice to mark that to protect yourself in the event that someone tries to get feisty with you after the fact. So cool, it's a very good point. Good deal. Maureen, you good with that? Anything else?
The only other thing is a reminder that when you have closings, have your title agent send the commission check to Linebaugh Avenue. We still get checks sent to Wesley Chapel and Trinity and whatnot, and it delays it. And I know if they're full commission checks, you guys want your money. So be sure they use the address on the disbursement authorization.
Yeah, the West Chase office is the one that is checked, mail is checked regularly. That's where Maureen handles all the deposits out of and so on and so forth. So make sure, and like I said, if it's our $250 check, you're like, oh, well, you know, so it'll get to them eventually, but we'd prefer to have it now sooner than later as well, so we can close out the file, if nothing else. But then if it is the full check, like Maureen said, then you guys are really motivated to make sure it gets to us and gets processed in a timely manner. So, and as a reminder, paperwork is always required, right? Within 48 hours, we are doing audits. I think you have noticed that we are auditing the MLS to see when a listing goes in. And if a listing goes in and we don't have a file and paperless pipeline, we will gently remind you, all right? At first gently. I know that the reminders are gentle, and then after, if you ignore those gentle reminders, I will get an email from Maureen saying, okay, your turn, Bob, to step up. They've ignored our gentle reminders. So then we're very particular about paperwork. It's critical that we have that documentation. David Rankin's on the line with us now, and he helped us and was in the room with me when we went through a DBPR audit, and we passed for the most part with very flying colors, but it's due to our diligence in making sure that we have documentation and that we have a system in place, and how we know when things are being transacted in our name, to make sure we know that things are being transacted in our name, and we're not just sticking our head in the ground and saying, I hope nothing shows up from an attorney later. So we're very particular about all that. It's nothing personal to any one of you. It's a commitment to the 1,499 others of you that we want to keep ourselves as a going concern and keep you guys in business as we're in business. So it's a team effort to get that going. So make it a diligent effort to get that paperwork in, because you will be hearing from us if not. All right, we know when things go pending when you represent a buyer, because we scan the MLS for that. We scan the MLS for things when new listings come on. And if we don't have our paperwork, you will be hearing from us. So cool. All right, let's go. Mara, let's jump over to vendors. And then I think we might have some Q&A unless Jim's answering those. We'll let Jim answer some Q&As if they're in there while we bring up some vendors.
Perfect. So the first vendor is going to be Brian Brown. Brian, you've been promoted to panelist.
Hey, Brian, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, good to hear you.
Yeah, it's nice to be heard.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just want to, I'm Brian Brown. I'm with Elder Public Home Warranty. Really, the only thing I wanted to talk about today is last week I talked a little bit about, last month, I mean, we talked a little bit about E&O insurance and coverage and all that other stuff. And I talked a little bit about getting, it might be a good idea since you're actually getting more money in commissions than because you're getting over above, that you might want to offer a buyer and a seller's plan. So I've had several agents doing that. And so last week I have a success story about that. So I had an agent who made an offer, got the offer, had offered to pay the seller's plan for the seller. And when they went through the walkthrough, the air conditioner wasn't working. And so basically we ended up having to replace the compressor on the unit. But the good news is the deal closed on time. The compressor got replaced a couple days after closing. The selling agent was happy because nothing got delayed, because that would have been a negotiation, as you know. And the buyer's agent was really happy because, they closed on time, and the buyer, got his AC fixed a few days later when we got the part in. So everything went great. So, don't forget about home warranties. And also I noticed it was in red on your list. I'm just saying.
See, right. That's right. Exactly. That's how important it is to at least offer it, right? That's and that is an E&O thing, right? That we have. I solemnly swear every time I re-up our E&O insurance that we always offer a home warranty to all our clients. Whether they take it or not is up to them, but at least it's been offered, so they can't claim that. Hey, Brian, real quick. So what is generally the cost of a seller add-on, to cover the seller during the listing?
So it's $75.
To just add it, but that's if they agree to pay for one for the buyer, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So it's $75 more. The nice part about it is, it does have a limit of $1,500, but it's really covering that. The most important part of that whole transaction usually is the AC or the water heater or something like that. So it's for $75. It's a nice coverage, and like I said, in the last 3 weeks, it's been successfully used twice. We actually also replaced a unit under it. Now, of course, it didn't cover it. There's a $1,500 limit. It didn't cover everything, but the guys I think the out of pockets were like $490 or something like that.
Yeah.
So a lot better than paying for $5,000 for an AC unit. So.
Right. And a lot happier in story, right? Because we can go through the whole thing and have it smooth, and it's something blows up at the end, or closings get delayed and all that stuff. That bad taste lingers in our clients' mouths, as opposed we want that sweet smell of success lingering in their noses and their mouths, not the opposite. So that's great advice.
We want them happy. So
that's right.
Anyway, if anybody has any questions, they can reach me at brianb@orhp.com or 941-720-1415. And I'd be happy to help them if they got any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Always do a great job. All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too.
Day.
All right. Mara, we got anybody else?
Yep, we've got Janet from Old Republic, 1031 Exchange.
It's an Old Republic time. I love it.
Janet, you've been promoted to panelist.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Don't see you, but we can hear you.
I got booted off for a minute.
Oh, okay, perfect. You're on.
Nice to see everyone. Happy to be here. Hope everyone's doing well. Old Republic Exchange, and we're definitely feeling the love from Future Home Realty. Bob, we're getting a lot of your agents reaching out to me, and I really do appreciate that. That they trust us to help with their clients. So just wanted to thank everyone for reaching out to us, asking great questions. Like I said before, I'm here as a resource to everyone. And I do have some classes coming up next month, and we're doing something a little bit different with what we do. And just for the ones out there that don't know what Old Republic Exchange is, we're a nationwide qualified intermediary for 1031 tax deferred exchanges of real property. So like I've told Bob before, no matter who the qualified intermediary is you're working with on a transaction, if anyone just needs general assistance, maybe doesn't understand something that's happening in a transaction, and you just want to get some, bounce some ideas off of me, feel free to use me as a resource. But we are doing a ton of webinars right now, but we're doing things a little bit different. We're revamping the Coffee and Conversation series. We did a partnership distributions class last week, and now we're doing some classes that are like really geared towards realtors. Like we're doing a generational selling class, which I'm looking forward to that. It's actually partnered with Old Republic Title on the title side. So we're having guest speakers come in from that. And these are neat. I mean, they're literally 20, 30-minute classes you can access via Zoom. We give away, Starbucks gift cards. So there's some incentive there. But we're doing one on generational selling. That's June 8th. There's one coming up next week. I think that's the one on professional tips for realtors. Basically, this class, talks about, what kind of things the title agent needs and things like that. So I just think it's good information. I mean, it's good to talk about 1031 exchanges too. We throw a little bit of that in there, but sometimes people want to hear something new too. You want something new and different and things that you can take back to the table and help your clients with. But as far as 1031 exchanges, tomorrow I have a full hour of 1031 exchange basics. It's at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So if anybody's interested in sitting in on that, it'll be via Zoom. And then I have another more advanced 1031 exchange strategies class on May 19th at 10 a.m. So I'll send you the links, Bob, just so you have them. And you can share it with the group. And the class is free to anyone. It's free to realtors. It's free to your clients, whoever you think, would benefit from the 1031 exchange. And then Bob, if you want to just send me information offline about what you were talking about, maybe sponsoring a social event for the agents, I would love to be a part of that.
Awesome. We will definitely do that. And I would love to get those links. That's great that you allow the clients to come in as well, because I'd rather than our clients hear the information directly from you, and our agents can be the hero, just being the source of the source, as we like to say, rather than the source, right? We'll let you be the source, because you're the expert, right? And we just introduce you.
Yes.
That way, takes the burden off of us for maybe something getting lost in the translation, if you will, right? And then
Exactly.
And hear that, because it's a huge thing. Now I know there was some talk out of DC about some changes to the 1031 exchange opportunities, and so hopefully those tamper down. And I think it's just mostly on size of deal, right? But it looked like it was pretty small to me, what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're going away, and there's a lot of panic driven movement right now in the industry. Everybody's just kind of in full panic mode, trying to take advantage of the 1031 exchange. But I truly don't think it's going away. From everything that we're hearing from economists and things like that, definitely will be some major changes. I certainly see that happening. But as far as them going away, it's too great of an asset to our industry. The real estate industry, the 1031 exchange does so much for us. You as realtors, for the agents, I just, like I said, I don't think anything's happening with it anytime soon. And when it does, like I said, it's not going away.
All right, perfect. This is recorded, so when they start to try and take it away, Janet, I'm going to play this back to them in DC.
Yes, please.
Janet said it's not going away, Mr. Senator. All right, or Mrs. Congresswoman. So I don't care what you say. That's perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. Good deal. And what we'll do is, Janet, we'll put those links up. Mara, I know you're on. We'll put those on the FHR calendar as well. Agents, a lot of times we get, hey, where do I find the link for this Zoom class or whatever? We're going to make a concerted effort and to put everything, and if we know of things like Janet's classes, we'll put them on the FHR calendar. And the FHR calendar, if you're new or are not new but have forgotten where to get the FHR calendar, I think you guys can see my screen, right? These toolbars just get in the way all the time, don't they? All right. I used to have Future Home Realty saved as my homepage. I surely don't want MSNBC, whatever it's popping up. It's the last thing I want on my feed. So let me see if Future Home Realty, if you pop in, there's an agent login in the upper right-hand corner of Future Home Realty. Right here, agent login. Once you log in, if you don't have your login, then just email Jim. Is that who they email Jim? Yeah. Yes, okay. Email Jim if you don't have your agent login, but once you get in the agent login, I think the first thing that pops up is the calendar. It's like our backdoor behind the scenes thing. So once you log in, you'll have that. So anytime you're looking for a link to our virtual office hours that happen every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, book club, a class, something if we know about like Janet's doing, then we'll drop those in our FHR calendar. So you can always get to the links there for the Zoom classes as well. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Janet. I appreciate it. Thanks for all you do. And we'll get you that info if we can see if we can start to get one of these social gatherings going.
Oh, definitely. I'm interested. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone again. Super
Absolutely.
excited.
You and I both. Perfect.
Have
All
a
right.
great rest of the week.
Thanks, Janet. All right, Mara, we got anybody else? Any other vendors?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, perfect. It was Old Republic Day, so that's perfect. Good deal. All right. One real quick thing I wanted to do is promote. I mentioned book club. We just finished a book last week. Yeah, we finished it last week. So this is our next book that we're coming up with. It's going to start next there. It's usually Tuesdays at 10 a.m. We're not doing it because it's Tuesday right now at 10 a.m. But except for the first Tuesday of the month when we have our office meeting. But book club, we'll be kicking this off. So if you want to take a look at this, we have a really good group of people. We read extremely slow. It's usually like 30 to 40 pages a week. And then we'll come back and just discuss whatever that might mean, if it's a chapter or two or whatever. Our next book here, this one is called The Power of Focus, right? It written by Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, a couple other guys I think contributed as well. But if you want to look for that, next Tuesday, we'll just intro the book, but we'd love to see you there. There will be no reading required or assigned for next Tuesday. But if you want to grab the book, it's called The Power of Focus. We'd love to have you. Like I said, it usually takes us 8 to 10 sessions to get through a book. But we kind of just dissect it a little bit, see how we can apply it to what we do as agents, because not all of them, they're not all realtor books, if you will, but we apply them to our specific business and see how we can bring it together. And it's a really cool group. It's one of my favorite hours of the week, quite frankly. I enjoy immensely getting together with that group and learning and just catching up a little bit, seeing how people's lives are going. We kind of, it's not in a webinar format, it's in a regular Zoom meeting format. So everybody gets to exchange and talk and we get to see everybody. So it's kind of cool. So keep an eye out for that. Again, the link will be on our FHR calendar, and plus Mara always sends out some reminders on our Facebook pages as well. To that end, real quick, before I bring up David Rankin, I want to, I don't know if you know, Pinellas Realtor Organization always pulls up on a daily basis now. They send out stats and they make these stats available, but once a month they compile them, right? Now, it's not rocket science how they do this. This happens to be Pinellas County, right? So this is just Pinellas County for March. And they always do a year-over-year comparison. So if we take a look at this screen that I have up right now, we see closed sales. This is just a summary of statistics. And this is, now people, well, what if I want to know Hernando County? What if I want to know Pasco? What if I want to know my zip code? What if I want to know run it? Well, guess what? On FHR University, I have a class, right, on how you can go in and create your own version of this specific to any area you want. You can do a metro, like the Tampa Bay metro area. You could do whatever, right? So you can really define it, and you can create these for marketing material, for just knowledge to have in front of you. I think it's critical. You should have this information when you're talking to sellers and when you're talking to buyers. You saying it and showing them in statistics is they're two different things, right? And you have that ability to solidify what you're saying in actual numbers. Like for instance, our closed sales March over March from this year compared to last year, the actual transactions. Now this is Pinellas County only. You can go in and set up your own. And by the way, where do you go to do this? It's through Florida Realtors is where they have all these statistics available. It's usually around the 20th or 21st of the following month. For instance, April 21st maybe is when this came out for March. Does that make sense? It takes about 3 weeks for them to compile all the data. And then but it's pretty, it's actually a fairly quick turnaround. So you have that, so up 20.6%. The number of people who paid in cash, 32.7% increase, right? So by the way, out of 25-ish hundred transactions, 1,000, right, were in, so over 40% were cash transactions, by the way, all right? Not so good. That's why my mortgage people aren't on right now. They're, out scrambling, trying to get deals because 40% of their deals are paying cash, right? New pending sales, right, are up 64% March over March. Now we were just rolling into the pandemic in March of 20, right? As things were starting to shut down. So new listings, right, up 7.5%. That's good news, right? That was up. Again, maybe pandemic driven. I'm going to tell you some bad things about inventory here in a minute when you go down and look at this full report. And then pending inventory's up. Inventory, speaking of bad news, right, is down. Look at, we have 1,772 in inventory in March of 2021 compared to 48-ish hundred in March of 2020. That's a 63.1% reduction. And it breaks it down. You can go by condo, you can do by different counties, so on and so forth. There's one thing I want to show you when we talk about month supply, right, and inventory. And you say, well, why does my buyer have to offer $48,000 and offer to mow the seller's new house lawn for the next year and everything else, try and get their, offer accepted? Well, here is, let me move our panelist view. All right. And talk about month supply of inventory, right? This is good information to have. So when your buyers are asking, what in the world's going on, right? Well, they say somewhere in a 5 to 6 month range of 5 to 6 months of supply is what they would consider a balanced market. That's what the economists would consider a balanced market. That in where we have 5 to 6, now we haven't had 5 months supply in a long time, right? But anything below 5 months, for instance, is starting to lean and get heavily into a seller's market. Above becomes a buyer's market, right? So these are charts and graphs that you can pull and you can show your clients, right? Again, how do I pull this data? What if I want it for my area? Go to the class. It's a 28-minute class I have and shows you how to go to the Florida Realtor site and pull down the data and even personalize it with your name and logo if you want. They allow you to do that. It's pretty cool stuff, right? Well, check this out. March of 2021, just like February of 2021, we have 0.8. That's a point. Decimals matter, right? That's a 0.8 month supply. That means basically we're right about 3 weeks of supply of inventory. That means that it gets gobbled up. Any inventory that comes on gets gobbled up. All right. And if we didn't have any new listings come on the market right now at all, right, then in 3 weeks, all our inventory would be gone. That's what month supply of inventory, left. So thus, and that's been steadily declining. 2.2 is still a seller's market. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's not nearly as much as a seller's market as 0.8. Okay, and so that is why we have what we do. All right. All that being said, the statistics are there. Learn to use these. All right, and have them speak for themselves, if you will. Right. Put this in front and learn to talk intelligently about these statistics so you can know how to better educate your client as we go through. So I just wanted to pull those up. Those get sent out, but they're readily available, and you can pull up any time you want. That being said, one last thing on the market, right? Obviously, we know it's a seller's market. We know you guys are getting creative. There's a lot happening to try and get our offers accepted. I'm just going to continue to encourage you to make sure that we know that our buyers in particular, right, understand what they're doing, that they're not just getting caught up in the frenzy of it all and are not giving blank checks out, right? Say, hey, just whatever it takes to get the deal done. Now, if they do that, then please record that conversation, have it in writing, everything else, right? They're going to become very forgetful when the market shifts and they feel like, oh, I overpaid in February of 2021, and now it becomes Jim Shanz's fault that they overpaid, right? Then we want to have documentation showing that, hey, look, you know, you're the party of the contract. This is your decision. It's, you know, I agree. It's hyperinflated right now and things are crazy. But if that's, you know, where you want to go, then let's go. If you got to have a place to live and you really want to buy, then let's do it. And there's, you know, there's still plenty of reasons to buy. I'm not trying to talk them out of buying because interest rates are incredibly low still and all is good. So just be careful and talk intelligently with your client, right? Now, that being said, I'm going to bring in David Rankin. Hey, David.
Do I have to talk intelligently?
Yes, you do. That's why I kind of prefaced all of that with you showing us how to talk intelligently. You and I were having a discussion, David, about this market and that there has been a high propensity, and we have verbiage in our some clauses available for our agents to use. One of which is, and I can bring it up, about the appraisal difference, right? That it's become very chic and hip to add that a buyer will pay the difference between appraised value and the purchase price. We have a caveat that when we represent the buyer especially, that we make sure that that has a limit on it, that there is not the infamous blank check floating around that is hanging out there. But here's our verbiage that we currently have. And you and I had some discussions about some things that's good, but there's been some misconceptions that you've seen from the legal side of people, buyers assuming things that are not in this verbiage that maybe have been promised by an agent and
Imagine that.
Yeah. little discrepancy. So let me preface your spot with just reading this, right? Here's an example, is if you had a buyer who wanted to make their offer more attractive, and we've gone over this and there's a class on it on FHR University that says, hey, look, even if it appraises for less than the purchase price, I'm willing to kick in this case, up to an additional $10,000 to make up the difference, right? So that's pretty much what this clause says. Should the property appraise for an amount less than the agreed upon purchase price, the buyer agrees to pay up to $10,000 in cash to make up the difference between the agreed upon purchase price and the appraised value. Give me an example. They're asking $280. Buyer comes in at $300, right? And adds this verbiage that says, hey, look, if it appraises for less than $300, I'll kick in an extra up to $10,000 to make up the difference. The property, so we got a contract price of $300. It appraises for $292. Then in this case, the buyer would kick in an additional $8,000 to come up to the $300,000 purchase price. All well and good, right? All things, buyer agreed to it. Now, we can get into a little bit of discussion too, David, later on, and we can think about this is, what if the buyer says, oh, I changed my mind and I don't want to do that, right? Well, you signed it just like anything, right? We have the enforceability of any provision, and it would be up to the seller to sue the buyer for specific performance if they said, well, I changed my mind, I'm not going to kick in even $8,000 to do that. So there would be a contractual issue to be had there because the parties had agreed to that, right? Where it really comes into play is that in our scenario, $300,000 purchase price, buyers agreed to pay up to $10,000 to make up the difference, and it appraises for $280, right? David has brought to my attention that some people have made the assumption that the seller is obligated to come down, right? So it appraised for $280, buyer's willing to kick in up to $10,000. So now the seller has to come down to $290, right? Well, problem is I don't see that anywhere in this verbiage, right? And I don't want you to promise buyers, you agents out there, I don't want you to think that using this verbiage, nowhere does it insist or mandate or obligate the seller to reduce the price at any time, right? Because even in the situation where the buyer comes up with more cash, nowhere are we lowering the purchase price. The purchase price is what the contract price was in our scenario, 300,000, right? But nowhere does it obligate them to come down at all. Now they can, if they decide to negotiate, they can do that, but they're not obligated to do so. And I've even heard some of our agents call me, text me and say, hey, doesn't the seller have to come down? And the answer is, as I text back, I'm a one finger texter, by the way, I'm not a double thumber, so I'll do it this way. That's why I usually speak. So if you ever get something that doesn't look right, all right, I'm usually doing talk to text. All right, so don't bust my chops. Who is it? I don't know if Colette Duke's on here, but Colette, because I always do my punctuation. I say like, this is the answer, period. And then sometimes it'll put a period, other times it'll write the word period, and I don't, check that before I send it. So she gave me all sleep on that. But that being said, when I text you back and say, no, nowhere is the seller obligated, even if we represent the buyer, all right? Nowhere does it, so you don't want to promise the buyers that. David, any input you want to add to that? And we kind of talked about potentially, looking at ways that if we wanted to solidify that and make it even more clear, we may amend this. Is that right?
Well, one thing to consider, the first thing I would say is just remember in the contract, there is a provision that says unless an amendment is in writing and signed by both parties, it's not enforceable. So the reason I mentioned that is because I had one situation where the parties had just an abundance of very talkative people, the buyer's agent and seller's agent. We did this and we did that, and look at this email, and look what it said. And I said, well, that's all well and good, but that's not in the signed, that's not what you have signed. All right. So there's an expectation that people have in the normal course of human endeavors, but we have to remember we're dealing with a real estate contract, and it really doesn't matter what's in the email. It really doesn't matter what's in the text, unless it's in the additional terms, and the additional terms are signed off on at the end of the contract, or there's an addendum signed off by both parties. It's as if it never happened. All right. So people, once again, in the normal course of human events, that's what happens. People talk during the day and they agree to something and whatever, but this is different. This is real estate contract time, and it doesn't matter. And once again, I can't say this enough, and there's so many people that get caught in this. I thought we agreed to, no, the only thing you agreed to is what's signed off on by both the parties. And the point that Bob raised is an excellent point, and that is the last thing that you want either your buyer, the buyer or the buyer's agent thinking is that, well, if you do the formula, it said we would come up with $10,000, and gee, the appraisal came in 20,000 below the sales price. So doesn't that mean that they have to reduce the sales price? No. So in addition to what Bob said, I would say what you want to do is consider these, what is it you're agreeing to? What is it you're agreeing to? And make sure that your buyer, if you're representing the buyer, that the buyer knows that this is all that we're agreeing to. And one point that Bob made in an earlier conversation is it's questionable how enforceable this language, a sentence or two. It's a concept, made sense at the time, but prepare your buyer that this is our best strategy. We're going to put it in writing, but there's a possibility in the real world that something blank happens and you don't get exactly what you think you're getting. So just injecting concepts from the real world.
And enforceability, and also from the seller's perspective, right? That if the buyer all of a sudden decided that they didn't want to kick in the $10,000, and then you've promised your seller, oh, no problem, if they don't close, then we'll just, get the earnest money, plus I think we should get the 10,000 on top of that too. Now I think, and we are not judge or jury, right? So we want to make no promises other than to say, this is done, we're going to do this, how we enforce it, just like on any portion of the contract. At the end of the day, we do agree to mediate and arbitrate and then go to court and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, if there's a fight, right? And the contract states that we agree to finally, if we had to settle that in court, if it's not what I think and what you think, or that the buyer and seller think, it's what is proven and delivered and judgments rendered and so on and so forth. So that's why David has a job. By the way, David, what is your job?
I wake up each morning and think to myself, well, no, I won't go into that. So I'm an attorney representing, represented the local Greater Tampa Realtors for about 17 years. So I no longer represent them, but I certainly have that experience. I've represented, been a part of about 300 proceedings in front of the Florida Real Estate Commission over the years. And I own a title company, American Patriot Title. We're located at the corner of Fletcher and Dale Mabry in Tampa. Can do closings all over the state of Florida. So I'd love to have the opportunity to do some closings with you. We do have a website, and I have a separate web page, so no problem getting a hold of me.
That's perfect. I am going to read a couple things. I just want to see if there's anything on here. For purposes. Okay, Andy. All right, Andy. Hey, Andy, we'll get you your answer. Or Maureen was replying to you anyway, so we're good to go. So anybody have a quick question? Anybody want to type in a question while we got an attorney on the line? We've probably got 5 minutes that we could take up some of David's time here. If anybody has something not too specific, but general enough, anything I've always wanted to ask an attorney, but didn't have the money to do so. This is on my tab, which means it's 0, right? By the way, David, you did speak very intelligently. However, the most intelligent thing you said was, Bob said very eloquently. I think it was probably the most intelligent thing you said when you hearkened back to my remarks.
Well, I've always said that it's not speaking intelligently, it's the appearance of speaking intelligently.
That's right. You gotta quote the right people. Quote the right people. So, all right. Well, I don't think we've got anybody that's got anything pressing. They've got this all figured out. That's good news. Oh,
Hey, Bob, can I add something?
Yeah, Jim, please do.
Oh, sorry. Oh, just because it came up this week, it's just, I guess, to be aware of is that someone did this appraisal difference verbiage from another company, sent it to us. We had the listing, just to give you context. But then they also added an appraisal contingency, which is great and all, except for the fact that they left it blank, which makes it the purchase price. So if it appraises for $1 less than the purchase price, they can still cancel. So they're basically not obligated. The way they wrote it, they weren't obligating their buyer to this, whatever, 10,000, it was happening to be 12,000 on this one. So just watch for that, cause it almost like snuck through. Luckily, I got shown it and I told our agents just to add 12,000 and then you got to initial it in there. Cause you got to have that. Well, not to 12,000. They put what the purchase price would, or what the appraised price would be under, which would be 12,000 less than what their purchase price would be.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I see.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not, they just left it blank. And I'm like, well, that just nullifies this whole verbiage here that doesn't obligate them to pay any dollar over the appraisal price. So.
Right. And vice versa. We don't, if we represent the buyers, we certainly don't want there to be an unlimited amount there, right? You don't say the buyer agrees to pay the difference between the appraised value and the purchase price, because then that's a blank check, right? That's if it appraises for 100,000 less, then the buyer is obligating themselves for 100,000 in cash.
Well, they had this, but it was 12,000.
Got
but
it.
Then they put an appraisal contingency, an addendum in there.
Got it. Yeah.
But
right.
they left that blank. So that lets them cancel if it appraises for anything less than the purchase price.
Right.
So it doesn't obligate them to this part at all. It almost like they're in conflict with each other. So you got to make sure that you put them in alignment with each other. is what I'm saying.
That's absolutely correct. And so to that point, Alejandra Morales asks or says that I use the appraisal contingency. Now, again, remember that the appraisal contingency is different than the appraisal difference verbiage, right? This is kind of what Jim's talking about, right? This appraisal difference verbiage, says the buyer will come up and make up the difference. The appraisal contingency in its creation is designed to say the property has to appraise, right? For a full purchase price is what the appraisal rider, we say it's contingency, it's the appraisal contingency rider to the contract, right? It's a Florida Realtor form that you put in there. Now, Alejandra's information said that she had, where is it? I lost it here for a second. Oh, that they never put a date on it, right? That has to be done. Yeah, so you want to have that complete. You don't want to have halfway, if I think I understand your question, Alejandra, is that you want to make sure that the appraisal contingency is, complete because there are dates in there in that rider that say, hey, look, the appraisal has to be received by this date. And if it's not, then here's what happens, right? Then all parties agree that they're going to proceed forward and so on and so forth. Appraisal riders right now, contingency riders are not, it's another hurdle for a buyer to get their offer accepted, all right? And it's usually the first one that gets tossed if an offer comes in with an appraisal, contingency, because to Jim's point, it may be warring, if you will, or conflicting with if they have other verbiage in there. And the first thing you have to do is either toss the offer altogether or line through that and say, no, we're not making the appraisal rider part of this contract. All right, because it's not there. By the way, just one other thing, one question always leads to another. Please watch my class on the contract or go to Jim's live class on the contract where we talk about what happens and whether or not paragraph 8 allows the buyer to cancel 100% based upon a property not appraising. And the answer is no, all right? Because there's other verbiage in there. It doesn't say the property has to appraise. It says it has to appraise to an amount that is satisfactory to the lender, right? So there's a difference there. So please watch my section of that paragraph 8 class so you don't get yourself caught into making promises. Now, Nicole, sir, I was going to read your flow here, Nicole, because at first I didn't see. So David, by saying that the seller listing agent does not have to show proof, the listing agent is the seller and others should be higher. I'm just reading the question real quickly. Okay, so Nicole, I think your question is when people are using escalation clauses, which by the way, we have an escalation clause that we recommend, right, in our forms that we have, right, and a way to use it. But assuming that the escalations you're seeing, Nicole, don't require that the seller provide proof that there is another valid offer on the table, how to enforce that, right? Well, if you use our escalation clause, it says it, right? And it gives them a place where they can fill in, or they have to fill in, all right? What is the offer? Who was the offer made by that forced this escalation, right? But I'm going to allow Jim to chime in here real quick about escalation clauses and your thoughts, Jim, because if you listen to my class on it, it says, even if we make them write it in, it's more work for them and that's good. And we're trying to make them put in writing. But do we think that there might be someone that has a cousin on, speed dial that say, hey, look, I got an escalation clause. I need you to write an offer on this one so I can force this escalation all the way up to its max, right? And how do we prove that that's not a valid offer? It'd be almost impossible to do, right? So are there nefarious people? Are there people out there forcing escalations when it probably isn't a legitimate escalation? The answer is absolutely yes, right? And how do you protect your buyer in that? You don't. So Jim's going to tell you what he suggests instead. Go ahead, Jim.
My thing is look, offer what you want to offer. Escalation clause or not, you don't need it. It's a waste of time. It's dumb. I know people believe in it. They had said they feel like that's how they get the deal. And maybe it is just in mindset. That's how you're setting them up on the other side. But the reality is that they could do exactly what Bob said. Number one, they could just get anybody in the office to write an offer. Who says it's not legitimate? They wrote it. There it is. And then they cancel during the inspection period. Sorry. So, I mean, even if you let the other person win it, you could, you gave them your max dollar amount. The other feeling too, and I'm on the Florida Forms Committee, and this feeling comes straight from the attorneys, and I wholeheartedly agree with them, is you just told me your highest offer. So you say, okay, I'm gonna pay 220 up to a max of 270 with the $2,000 increments going up, escalation clause wise. When you get offers in, I'll go 2,000 above the next highest up to 270. Okay, you told me it's 270. Nothing stops me from advising my seller, let's just counteroffer them at 270. We know how much they're willing to pay. And I could certainly just send a counteroffer to you at 270. I don't have to show any other contracts because we haven't agreed to any escalation. And then even if we did, it doesn't really matter because I can get somebody to write one, but I can literally do whatever I want as the seller. I can counteroffer you at 270 because you just told me you were willing to pay that. So if you're willing to pay 270, just offer 270. That's my advice to everyone is I tell buyers, I say, look, offer what you're willing to walk away from if you don't get it. If it goes higher than that and you say, I wouldn't pay $1 over that. Okay, fine. This is a market where if you want to win it, offer what you want to offer and don't cry when you don't get it. Go to the next house. That's my opinion. Because there's these escalation clauses. You're just basically telling them exactly how much you're willing to pay for it. So I would advise my seller, hey, just counter them at that full amount. Be done with it. Let's see what they do. What are they going to do?
I want to make sure they understand what you're saying. So Jim's saying is, whoa, how can they counter at 270 when they didn't have another offer on the table? Jim's saying he never signed his seller never signed the escalation addendum. So he's not obligated to show you anything. He's just saying, here's our counter offer. I see your offer and I'm going to make a counter offer of your maximum price. And I'm willing to, it's like a buy it now. Okay, Mr. eBay, you want it at 270. You're willing to go to 270. I'll take your 270, sign the contract. Here it is. Forget all these escalation stuff. Right. And there's validity in all of that. And by the way, I know it's chic and hip right now, but when we don't have 0.8 months supply on the market, and it will change, it always does, right? When it shifts, right? You guys are going to give me a year and a half from now, I'll have a whole new batch of agents that just newly licensed, and they're going to say, what's an escalation clause? Right? I've never seen one of these. Now I don't know what is it. What do you mean appraisal difference verbiage? Right? Because these are just things that we pull out when we need to. And I kind of lean towards Jim's point here that, and it's twofold, right? Either the seller can just counter at your max price, number one, or just if you want to say, hey, where's the escalation that caused that? All right, let me get my buddy at the cubicle next to me back in the day when we had cubicles, right? To write up an offer and get you at 268 so we can escalate your 2,000 above 268 to 270. There, you want that? Here it is. So Nicole, long answer to your question is you can't force someone to prove it. But by the same token, I would just go with max price, put it out there. Here it is. Are you willing to take it? Here's what if I don't get it for this price, then I'm not going to pay $1 more and walk away if they don't. So that's cool. All right. Janina asked us, okay, let me real quick Janina asked us to mention the JAM marketing group. So let me talk about that real quick. Janina runs a group up out of the Newport Richey area. It's not exclusive to them, right? But a great group. It's a subgroup, if you will. And they've just got, by the way, high propensity of cappers. So if you want to hang out with some successful people, go hang out with the jammers. Keep an eye out for it. You can reach out to Janina Wozniak if you want more information about that. That'd be great. Her information is on our website. You can always get her number there. And then real quick, Pat, let me read your question. Pat said, can you open up open your listing up to potential buyers for any kind of open bidding, letting all the buyers know what offers are on the table. Okay, that's kind of a good one, right? Am I allowed to notify that, hey, we're going to kind of have it's not a sealed bid, but an open bid, right? I'm going to let everybody know what the other offers are. And I'm going to tell you my answer, and David, you correct me if I'm wrong, because the answer, the wives' tale out there is that I'm not allowed to tell anybody else. I can't tell buyer A what buyer B's offer is and buyer B what buyer A offer is. Well, if the seller wants to do it that way and notify everybody, is there anything prohibiting that, David? Is there anything in Florida law other than we could potentially open ourselves up for a world of hurt, but is there anything that would legally disallow us from exposing the amount? Hey, I've got one at 270. Do you want to go higher?
I'm not aware of any.
Yep, nor am I. All right. But you have to be completely open. Where you're going to get yourself in trouble, Pat, not that you would, is that if one party got to have knowledge that the other parties did not, right? So it'd have to be a completely open. Now, I will say this before you go there, call myself or Jim, right? Because it can be a very slippery slope before we go that direction as we're creating an auction. And we want to make sure that everybody is aware of how that is being disclosed to everybody as we go through. Cool. All right. And I agree. And she just typed in, totally understand, just a concept for these times. Yeah, not a, you know, by the way, that's what an escalation clause is. When you have escalation clauses, it's like you got warning escalation clauses. So get yourself a free or a $14.95 a month Zoom account and create an online auction and have it recorded. Record the session so you know exactly what's going on. Hey, all parties, we're going to have our auction at 5 p.m. Here's the Zoom link. And here we go. And all right, buyer A wants to go to 270. Buyer B says 273. Buyer C says 274 with closing costs. And then buyer A counters and says, now I'm willing to go to 277. And the seller's just sitting back watching the cash register roll, baby, as it comes through. All right. Okay. All right. So let's jump off real quick. How can we see the questions? Oh, Sandra, what happens is when the questions are answered, if they've been answered, then they get removed. I believe we say that it's been answered, and so then it gets removed. Matter of fact, if you click, maybe I don't know if you can. Well, you may not be able to see it as a non-host, but you can click on. There's a dismissed tab. So if you want to see past questions that were up there. So, and as always, by the way, these are great topics. Perfect for our virtual office hours, right? Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. Jim usually handles Wednesdays. I'm usually on Mondays and Fridays. And we just answer questions like this, right? Hey, how can I do this? Or, hey, can you show me how to get on the FHR calendar, right? Or, hey, Bob, I'm having a situation where the seller's not responding to. Whatever, it's open office hours are just that. It's like literally Jim and I are sitting in our office and you come and knock on the door. Right? Except you're knocking on the Zoom virtual door and we're just here. We're usually sitting at a computer, ideally, 99% of the time, so we can pull up things on the contract. We can show you spots on Form Simplicity where you go to find the clause, all those kind of things. It's real easy to share our screen and do that and go from there. Cool. All right. So we've got a couple minutes left. I want to jump. David, thank you, by the way. American Patriot Title, can you tell us once again how we get a hold of you?
813-960-0422 and American Patriot Title website or David Rankin website. All will get to us.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks again for always jumping on. It's good to have your legal expertise and intelligent speak, by the way.
Just the appearance. Just the appearance.
Just the appearance. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So cool. All right. So I'm going to spend give me 7 minutes, guys. And I want to jump through this because May, traditionally, when we have our live meetings, May is when two things we do, right? We usually revisit what we call is who is Future Home Realty, right? Because I want to, if you saw the invite for this, I reminded agents that May it's almost like our state of the company address, if you will, because things are going great, right? We continue to grow, and it's all based upon who you guys are and representing us so well out there that people are attracted to, hey, I want some of what they have, right? And it's not necessarily, it's because of who you are as agents, right? But I want to remind us, because I think there is some things that differentiate us. I hear all the time from vendors, other people that, hey, look, I really enjoy dealing with future home agents. They seem to know their stuff, all right? And I said, well, good. I'm glad that's always good news to hear, right? They're responsive, all those kind of things, right? And it's an advantage to you, right? But that's also why we're so, here's what we say. When Jim and I do meet with people and they're interested in joining Future Home Realty, and I haven't watched Jim do one of his recruiting things in a long time, but back in the day, I know, and I still do this, is that one of our beliefs is that clients do business with the agent and not with the company, right? And I think you guys would agree with that. Your clients are attracted to you, not to Future Home Realty. However, I caveat this, some clients may not do business with you because of a company, right? And so you're going to see that it's been our vision, our mission, our goal from day one to make sure that we protect our logo, right? That we provide something that is not going to be a hindrance to you, right? And that is why there have been times when we've had discussions with agents and gently asked them to leave, right? Because they're not representing our logo well and they're damaging. It's not a threat to anybody, but a promise to our great agents. I like to say it's a promise to the good agents that we're not going to let, it's a promise to the good apples that we're not going to let the bad apples spoil our barrel, right? So we're going to get them out quickly so that we can represent ourselves out there in the community and do what we do well, right? So I want to visit this, and it's funny, I call it Who is Future Home Realty? The irony is that this PowerPoint hasn't changed in forever, right? I don't think we started doing this back in 2004 when we started taking on agents and we created this, but if I had, it hasn't changed. If you've been following on our Facebook pages, I'm going through our vision, mission, and core values right now on my Monday motivations. And it's interesting to see that those things are who we are. As a matter of fact, this one's titled Who is FHR 2013, because guess what? Some things never change, right? It's who we are. So again, I apologize. You guys knew what every time I move my toolbar, it's always to the next spot where I need to click on anyway. So it's kind of like my dog, Trixie. If I'm ever vacuuming, she'll get up and upset when I'm vacuuming and move to the very next spot that I'm going to vacuum. So then she ends up getting frustrated like 15 times in a row. I'm like, well, if you just go move to a place where I just vacuumed, you'd be all right. So anyway, so who is Future Home Realty? Let's remind us of our vision. Our vision is that from day one, we set up that we're going to revolutionize the real estate industry by becoming the most agent-centric model in the world. Now, agent-centric, what does that mean? That we're going to focus on the agent first, right? It was kind of backwards at the time, right? That most companies start with, well, how does the company become profitable? It's like, no. Let's put that as a byproduct. Let's start with what makes the agent profitable. And then by doing that enough times, then the company will be profitable. All right. But we started agent focused, right? Because we believe, I'm looking at my group here that I can see on the panel that you guys can't necessarily, Jim, Mara, Maureen's team, including Asha and Pat and Deb and all the people, Chris, all the people that support us. Our goal is to serve you, the agent, as our client, right? It's not to pester you. It's not to make your life miserable. Maureen's team is not designed to sit there and say, hey, let me just throw another piece of paper at them so I can say that their file was not complete. They would love to open up your file for the first time and say, check, done, right? Here's your DA. That would be great. And there are agents that do that, right? And so it's awesome. all right, to have that. That is not their goal. Our goal is to help support you in running your business. So it's agent centric. And part of that agent centricity was to focus on agent development. I've always been a personal development kind of guy. So I'm a believer that if clients are going to want to do, if we believe that agents or clients do business with the agent, then if you're the agent, then you want to make yourself the best you can be. Because the better you are, the more clients you're going to attract. Does that make sense? Right. And so we're going to help develop you, all right, in your agent development, and that your sales results will be a byproduct of this development, right? And it's not necessarily how to write a FAR/BAR contract. That may be part of it, but more importantly, we focus on what we call the big five. And actually, I focus on the big four that leads to the number five, right? And these are not in order, but I like to help people develop spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, physically. And when we take care of those, then the fifth one comes along for a ride, and that's financially, right? That if you can become better spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, physically, all right, and how we develop there, then your financial growth is a byproduct of that, right? So that's always been our vision from day one, right? And that created our mission statement. And our mission statement was, and still is, Future Home Realty exists to provide real estate agents with the most profitable, effective, efficient place to run their business. We recognize that you're running your own business, right? Matter of fact, we don't recognize it, we promote it. We encourage you to recognize it as well, right? That you're running your own business, and our job is to help you run your business in the most profitable. That means a really aggressive commission structure. Effective, that means having some good back office stuff in place, good checklists, all those kind of things so that you can do your business effectively. And efficient, same thing, that you can now have a place where I can go get trained. Where's a place that I can get answers? Where's a place that I can speak to the brokers, right? That Bob and Jim, are they available to us? Jim and I always get, it does our heart good, and I hear it all the time when agents come to us from much smaller companies and say, I can't believe you answered your phone at 8:30 on a Tuesday night. It's like, well, you know, I got to answer the call. If not, you're leaving me a message and I'm returning your call tomorrow. So now's as good a time as any, right? Number one. Number two, well, I wish every broker thought that way, because my last company had 10 agents and I couldn't get a hold of the broker for, 8 days or whatever, right? So we recognize that when you have an issue, you have an issue, and we're here to help you do that, right? That's what we see as our role, right? To help you run in these three areas: profitable, effective, efficient, right? So that's the mission. Then that's built on core values. By the way, you should probably do this for your own business as well. You should have a vision statement, a mission statement, and core values set up in your own business, right? This is who is Future Home Realty, but you should have who is Annie Agent, right? Comma LLC, comma PA, right? Or whatever. Who is that person, and what are my core values in my business? One thing we have, and at the very top, is integrity, all right? I say that this matters most. By the way, these are on our website. Without it, you need not waste your time attempting to conduct business, deal honestly and fairly with all people at all times. We expect honesty from our team members, period, right? No shenanigans going on, right? There's no, I called it, not an agent, but I called a lender on the table just not last weekend, but the weekend before. Because she said, well, we switched to FHA and we haven't told the seller yet. We're just going to have them sign the addendum at closing. They're wrong. It's not the way we roll here at Future Home, right? If you're switching for loan programs, you need to, the contract is clear that we need to keep everybody abreast of any changes in the situation, right? And I don't care if you can slide it by. It's not how we do it, all right? We deal honestly and fairly upfront, even if it's things you don't want to hear, right? And by the way, you will hear that from us sometimes, all right? I know you don't want to hear this, but you're wrong. Your buyer's going to lose their earnest money, in my opinion, right? I'm like, well, that's not what I called to hear. I said, well, I'm not, we speak the truth around here, so it is what it is. All right. So, but integrity is critical to us. Personal growth, we just got done covering that, right? That we want agents who are determined and focused and committed to growing themselves as people, right? Not just as, agents. By the way, the whole thing, I would rather you read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People than to be able to quote to me the FAR/BAR as is contract, right? Because when you read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and your job is a realtor, then you're going to be really good at the FAR bar as is anyway. All right. But as a side product, you're also going to be a better parent, a better spouse, a better friend, a better all these things too. All right. And those are the kind of people we're looking for. All right. Discipline. I just covered this one in the Monday Motivation. Success is not easy. It takes a disciplined approach on a daily basis to achieve success. Be willing to pay the price. Do not expect something for nothing. No one owes you a thing. Right? Speaking of not being wanting to hear what you don't want to hear, right? Okay. Success in any business takes discipline. And that's the bad news, if you want to call it bad news. The good news is if you're disciplined, success will come, right? I'm just telling you. Well, I don't care if it's trying to be a better human being, to lose weight, to grow your savings. Discipline wins the day, all right, every time. And we want agents that are committed to that. Excellence. Don't do halfway stuff, right? Don't I try to make it, I'm doing the best I can, all right? The best you can, if it's not really excellent, is not good enough. I'm here to tell you, right? Your clients and your broker doesn't want to hear that, your grandmother's been sick and therefore our paperwork is non-existent, all right? I'm sorry your grandmother's sick, but you're a realtor, so hire out someone to either take care of your grandmother or to get us our paperwork or both, right? But I'm just telling you, if you're looking for a sympathetic ear, I get it. Things happen in life, but you can't expect to go halfway, right? And if things pop up, find solutions. Don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution and get it done. Do not start a task if it can't be started with an expectation of excellence, right? No questions asked on that. Pay it forward. We're big on giving back to the community, but paying it forward, right? No greater sense of self-achievement, is felt than when a person unselfishly gives time, money, and effort for the benefit of others. Find a way to contribute positively in the community. We will be known as the most giving company in the area. I want to hear stories about our agents, and I don't care where your passion is, right? Probably different than mine, right? And that's cool. If you're really into helping orphan kids or homeless, or I know Brian Heckman, for instance, is really involved in human trafficking issues right now, and all that kind of stuff. Could be looking out for the earth, right? Or dogs or animals or whatever, right? But find a passion and go give of that, right? We want to be known as that. You give so much better. By the way, oh, Bob, if you knew how much time I don't have, then it'd be hard to do. That's a great idea. Well, you know what? Be careful what you wish for, because if anybody wants to raise their hand and say they don't have time, then, what you're also volunteering is, hey, Bob, can you follow me around for a day? Right? Trust me, if I followed you around for a day, I'd find your time. You might not watch Netflix as much. You may not watch other things. You may not be able to spend 48 minutes on Facebook, right? But I'll find your time, all right? And same for me, by the way. And I have to tell myself this all the time. It takes a disciplined effort to do that, right? So pay it forward. Teamwork, by the way, you guys do a great job of this, all right? And I don't know who's all on with our 60-ish participants now, but I'm just telling you, working together, the way you guys work together, and part of that is that JAM group, by the way. If you want a subset, join a group like JAM, because they really help out with each other. They know each other intimately. They know their kids' names. They know, with 1,500 agents, it's impossible to know everybody, right? But if you get into a subset, now you can get to know a smaller group intimately. You guys can celebrate each other's birthdays. You can cover for each other when somebody has an orthodontist appointment that runs long, all that kind of stuff. And I see it happening all the time. So get involved. If that's what you're looking for, do it. Because here's what we teach in teamwork. The answer you give today is the answer you get tomorrow, right? So, and you guys do it all the time on our Facebook pages, people helping each other out. Does anybody know where the escalation clause, where I can find that, right? Don't ask Jim, because he'll tell you not to use it. But other than that, here's where it is, or go to the clauses section, or whatever it might be. But you guys do a great job, because we want to be known as a team, right? And finally, professional standards, the Code of Ethics, the National Association of Realtors, our local boards, our Florida Realtors, basically have all sorts of obligations that we agree to live by, right? Above all else, here's my last 2 sentences. Above all else, follow your own moral compass. Oh, 3 sentences. You know what is right and ethical. Follow the golden rule of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In 100K, we like to call it the platinum rule, all right? Is instead of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, do unto others as they would have done unto them, right? Just because you like it doesn't mean somebody else will, right? So treat people the way they need to be treated, right? In that area, that's more of the platinum rule than anything else. All right. Let's kind of, and I like to revisit that. Oh, responsibility. I guess there was one more. There's no greater responsibility. Oh, here's one. Right. This personal responsibility should be labeled as, right? Which is again, people, let me see. Oh, no participants have left yet, right? Because nobody likes to talk about personal responsibility. Nobody wants to say I was wrong. Nobody likes to say, yeah, you know what, looking back, that was my fault. But there is no greater business than repeat and referral business. In order to get that, clients must be satisfied with their transaction. When mistakes happen, and they will, admit them and fix them. Do whatever it takes to make it right. Own it, right? If I own it, trust me, I have, in my career, I have owned it. And when I own it, it may cost me money in the short run, but in the long run, people respect that ownership and then they refer their people to me, right? I can give you example after example of when I've made a mistake and I will own it when things at the end, all right, you might eat a little crow now, but down the road, it comes back to pay. And that's not why we do it. We eat the crow and own it because it's the right thing to do. All right, cool. All right, we're gonna hurry up. We're done here. Win-win, seek transactions where everybody feels good and everybody feels like they're treated well. All right, you can go back and visit these. Last thing I want to show you is, in addition to that, in May, we also hand out our bonus checks, right? I don't know if you guys know this, most of you do, that when you refer an agent to us, right? It's not 7 levels deep like other companies we know, right? Or anything like that. It's just a one-on-one referral where if an agent introduces us to another agent and that agent joins us, then 10% of the $250 transaction fee goes back to the referring agent, right? Now, then that's only 25 bucks. I get it. Well, and eventually that goes away. If that person ends up capping, right, then that 10% stops for the year. But we pay that every year as long as you're both an active agent with the company, right? And so all it takes is a simple, hey, you know what? Hey, Jim, this agent, I was talking with them, we were doing a deal and they were interested, they heard good things about Future Home. Why don't you give them a call? That's it, right? And then that person who joins puts you as their introduction person, their sponsor, their referrer, whatever you want to look at it. But what we do, rather than pay a lot of $25 checks throughout the year, we track it. And then in May, based upon our cash flows, by the way, is when we pay your bonuses from the year prior. Okay, so this is 2020. Those checks will be going out in the mail this week. All right, if you introduced us to someone and they claimed you as their referring or sponsoring agent, then you will get 10% of their 250s, right? As they go through. Cool thing is that I think I don't have my Excel spreadsheet right here in front of me, but I know we're north of $52,000. The checks I'm about to send out today are this week. It'll probably go out on Thursday, just so you know. It's in excess of $52,000 is going back to the agent's hands, right? Just as a way of us saying thank you for referring us, and as a reminder, hey, it's not a bad idea to continue to refer us. We can handle, we have systems in place and we can handle more business. We think what we just went through, that a lot of agents need who we are. I said, who is Future Home Realty? I think more agents need who we are and who you guys are, which is who we are, right? So please, please, please continue to spread the word. We are excited about our growth and everybody else. But I wanted to share with you, I always have the top 5 checks, all right, that are going out, all right? So in 5th place is Darla Wright, is you're gonna be getting a check for $891. Okay, not a bad payday for introducing us to people probably 7 years ago, right? But she continues to reap those benefits. People say, well, $891, it's not a lot, at this other Weller Killiam's company, I got more money than that. Yeah, well, you paid them a lot more money too, right? Because remember, the most you're paying us is $4,000. So Darla, but here's another thing, $891, right? Almost pay your MLS dues and your board dues for the year, right? I don't know, something like that, close, right? It's in that range, okay? Why not? For just saying, hey, look, you ought to check it out, give Jim, give Bob a call, right? Corey Hudson, all right, $913.20. He's getting a check for $913.20. Wendy Lant, Wendy's out of our Orlando office, and she's getting a check for $998, right? So almost 4 figures. Manuela Woodrum, you guys know Manuela. Manuela's introduced to us to a couple of agents. And obviously, by the way, the more successful agents you introduce us to, then those 10% add up quicker, right? The more transactions someone does. Manuela is going to get a check for $1,076.50, right? So that's awesome. And finally, John Brokalakis is our top sponsor this year. John is getting a check for, check this, $2,194.70 coming back to John, all right? And he just say, hey, look, give him a call. Here's a guy. Just check him out. It's all it takes, guys. It's just, hey, look, have them mention you when they talk to us, and make sure they add you when they sign up to that bonus. So when your checks come in, you'll see it. If you have any questions on those, Maureen, I guess since I'll be sending out the checks, I always include that, right? I include the little slip, so I have to cut those up.
If they have any questions, they can email me and I can answer their questions.
Perfect. Sounds good. Once you get the check, and I'll have a little slip on there of the sponsorees or the people you sponsored and how we computed that number. And if you have any questions or we think we're missing somebody, we can look it up and research it for you. So I know we ran a little bit long. It's about 5 minutes after. I don't know if there's any questions pressing on the top. You're welcome to log off if you need to, but I'll dig through these. Let's see. Some thank yous. That's great. Janina loves her jammers. Alyssa asked when the next 100K is. You know what? We missed the spring because of some things going on. So I think we're going to probably be relaunching Alyssa sometime in the fall. And when I say the fall, probably early September-ish is when we'll launch one. In the meantime, there are recordings of past classes, and jump in our book club, because that's kind of a good place for you to connect with some people as well in the meantime. But, and if you have specific questions about 100K, or as you're watching any of those past classes that you want information on, Alyssa, please reach out to me anytime. I love that. And then Nicole wants more referral cards, those little joint FHR cards, I'm assuming she's talking about. Jim, do you have any extras of those still flying around?
Yeah, they're at the West Chase office.
Next time you're in, can you pop some in the mail to Nicole?
Yeah, we can do that.
Make a note. Nicole Sir is who she's asking for that. So if you can send some, that's great. Yes, we have these. It's just a little. We have a recruiting website called joinfhr.com, and it kind of spells everything out. And it's a nice little card that you can put your name on the back, referred by, and you can hand them out to some people. So good deal. Awesome. All right, guys. I hope you have a great rest of the week. If you have any questions at any time, reach out. Remember, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we have that. Love to see you at book club, and anything you need, go get them. Any way we can help you run your business more profitably, effectively, or efficiently, let us know. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.